6 years since the rage of revolution, Egypt's economy is struggling. There's continuing attacks and constant allegations of violent crackdowns on dissent. Now, a group of opposition politicians is reportedly planning a new National Assembly to challenge Sisi's rule. After allegations of vote rigging by Hosni Mubarak's party in the 2010 elections, a National Assembly was set up as an alternative parliament. Now, a group calling itself the G10 is reportedly planning to do the same, creating an across-the-board coalition made up of secular, liberal and Islamist parties to offer an alternative to Sisi or the Muslim Brotherhood returning to power. But with Sisi's tight clampdown on opposition, will this assembly have any impact? The new National Assembly says it's looking to key Gulf states for support. Since the 2011 revolution, Egypt has received an unprecedented flow of aid from allies there, including Saudi Arabia. But tumbling oil prices and Egypt's support of Assad's regime in Syria have seen the Saudi tap drying up, and in October it cut off cheap shipments of oil. Egypt's economy is facing difficult times, with high inflation and more than a quarter of the population living in poverty. And terror attacks are scaring away tourists and foreign investors. But last week, Sisi's view of the economy was more positive.
An objective assessment of developments in Egypt in recent years makes it clear that we're moving on the right track. We will continue to reform the economy and build massive development projects throughout Egypt.
Vocal opposition to Sisi's government is effectively banned. Human Rights Watch says activists, journalists and NGOs are being targeted. And last year, security forces routinely tortured detainees and forcibly disappeared hundreds of people. Some believe Sisi may be given a lifeline by Donald Trump, who called Sisi last week to discuss ways to deepen the bilateral relationships and support Egypt's fight against terrorists. Would a National Assembly pose a threat to Sisi's rule? And would it be able to do anything to stop Egypt's slide into economic and political chaos? Yvette McCullough, The Newsmakers.
To discuss this, I'm joined now by Ali Al-Kabbani in London. He's a journalist and writer with a focus on Egyptian affairs, and also in London, Mustafa Ragab. He's the founder of the UK's Egyptian Association. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Let me start with you, Ali Al-Kabbani. This G10 idea, a new National Assembly, basically an alternate parliament, is it going to work?
It's not going to work. Nothing is going to work under the military regime in Egypt. They are trying to absorb the national anger. Sisi have been lying to the people over and over again. And this is another trick of his to just draw the attention away from the public anger against his policy and all the false promises he gave the people, and he never fulfilled any of them since his military coup of the 3rd of July to date. So it is really a way of drawing the attention of people away and starting another project of his false projects like usual. That man, since the 3rd of July coup, he did not fulfill even his roadmap. Under Sisi, the opposition leaders cannot even live in Egypt.
Okay, so let me...
The country, Bassem Youssef...
Sure, you made a bunch of points, so let's try and keep ourselves focused here, because you made a bunch of points. Mustafa, Ayman Noor, opposition leader, saying, quote, "Only a lunatic would want to lead Egypt right now, and Sisi's position is untenable." That's what Ayman Noor said. In addition to what you heard there, what do you think?
To start with, you asked Mr. Ali a question, and he used the whole time just to attack a personal Mr. Sisi. He has not answered or addressed anything of your question. So people who use the question to achieve something else, it's not a good debate. You know, when you ask a question, you answer the question. But if you come into the coalition that proposed to be a coalition from abroad to replace a government, how are they going to work? Is it going to be based in Cairo? Is it going to be based abroad? Are they going to be supported by one of the superpower to bring them back to power like they did in Iraq? That will never work in Egypt. What we're talking about here, there is no coup in Egypt. That was the Egyptian people will.
Okay, so
that was the Egyptian people will.
Allow me to jump in here.
That was the Egyptian people will.
Okay,
and
allow me to come in, Mustafa.
Have decided to
Mr.
come
Ragab,
down
allow me
and
to
get
come in.
rid of the brotherhood and get rid of everybody like Ayman Noor.
Okay,
that's
so
why
allow me to come in here because I want to have.
Why do you know?
I want us to have bite-sized chunks here so we can get through a bunch of things. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. You made a good point, sir.
Feeling from Egypt.
Okay, I want to go to Ali and say, okay, you guys both disagree on the very foundations of the state right now, but you both agree that this new coalition won't work. That's one thing you can both agree upon. Let me ask Ali. Ali, what is the way forward here? Egypt's not going to have another revolution, is it? Why can't you trust Abdel Fattah Sisi's approach to try and make some changes through slow reform?
Because we have got the experience of more than 6 decades of the military rule. Sisi is a continuation of Mubarak regime, which the youth of Egypt and the Egyptian people behind them revolted against in the 25th of January in the greatest revolution in the history of Egypt. People in this revolution said,
there is a lot of people in Egypt who are expressing their feeling while they are there. There is a lot of people in Egypt doing the job for the opposition. But the problem is we don't have a proper opposition to any government since President Nasser. People in Egypt need to learn how to be opposition. People in Egypt need to learn how to form a proper party for opposition. You need to know what opposition is. When you look at Mr. Ayman Noor insulting the Sisi in his speech just to create some fame for himself, you're not becoming an opposition by insulting a president, are you?
Okay, let's allow Ali to express himself.
Don't
Ali?
you understand? Don't you understand that people in Egypt
just need to know how to work?
They're against stealing the power.
Can you tell me, Mr. Ali, can you tell me who are you and what work do you do? You are a journalist. What do you do really to influence the people? If the people don't want Sisi, tomorrow will they be down in the streets like they did with Hosni? The Egyptian people now don't fear nothing. So you need to know that he's
Okay, so you've asked him a bunch of questions there, Mustafa. Allow the man to answer. Ali?
The people of Egypt don't want Sisi and they don't want the military regime. They want to be treated as a human being with dignity and freedom and have a democracy. It seems that Mr. Mustafa Rajab does not know what is democracy and he does not respect the Egyptian people.
You tell me what's democracy then.
Decent human being and have a civilian regime ruling the country. The military destroyed this country.
You tell me what's democracy in your eyes.
Democracy
is democracy in your eyes to insult the president? Is democracy in your eyes to form a coalition abroad? Is this democracy? Democracy like you work like the people in Kifaya, they're working on the ground in Egypt, opposing the government.
I don't agree also with the military regime because we have got a military dictator who is putting all the opposition in jail and he doesn't even permit the people who brought him to power, like Baradei, like Amr Hamzawi, like
Mustafa,
Yusuf, to even be able to live in the country.
Okay, Mustafa, would you accept that this is a military dictatorship?
No way I accept that at all. There is a government there in place. There is a government, civilian government. Of course, there is a lot of fault because we know Egypt have lived for a long time with corruption, but we have a government there. None of them come from the military. And do you know something? If they were the ministers, they were from the military, Egypt will do much better now.
Mustafa, we're looking at the economic situation. Ali, give me a minute. Ali, give me a moment here. I want to ask Mustafa a question. We're looking at the economic situation here. We're seeing high inflation, unemployment is high. Some of those big projects that Ali mentioned have not come through. There's a feeling, and more than a feeling, empirical data that the Saudi money and other Gulf money is running out in Egypt right now. So based on that, based on nothing else, based on that, can you agree or accept that Abdel Fattah Sisi's plan is failing?
No, it's not failing. Egypt is facing a very, very hard economic war. And people who are asking Egypt to do things for them, and when Egypt refused to do it, then they go and join this economical war against Egypt. Egypt is doing a lot of projects that should have a lot of benefit for Egypt and the Egyptian people. But the war we're facing from abroad, from Arab countries, from Western countries, everybody wants to see Egypt on its knees. And the people in Egypt, the people in Egypt are very patient. That is what making the situation carry on. But we are facing a very, very difficult situation.
Okay, so
let me go back to Mr. Ayman Noor when he say,
very
Mr.
briefly,
Ayman Noor say the fault is in themselves, and he says as well that the work was half brains. How do you expect a man who says about himself he works with half brain to be a leader for Egypt? How do you expect people who say that the fault is in them to rule Egypt? When finally the time for Sisi finished, we don't want to see any of these old faces again in government.
Okay, so
we want to see fresh blood. We want to see young people to come to power.
Okay, let me ask Ali, are you hopeful for the future, and do you agree in any way that this might be some sort of external economic war against Egypt and that people want to see Egypt on its knees?
Definitely.
All failing regimes in the world
Definitely.
and all military dictators put their failure or hang their failure on outside conspiracies and internal conspiracies. The military regime in Egypt is failing. The Egyptian pound have deteriorated to humiliating levels, from 6-7 Egyptian pounds to the dollar to more than 20 pounds today under this failing regime. And the economy is collapsing, and Egypt is bankrupt. And the gentleman opposite me is saying that the Arab countries are launching an economic war against Egypt. Abdel Fattah Sisi is begging them for donations, and when he will disagree with them in their regional policies and they stop supporting him with the donations, he is the one who consider them
and after they help, they ask Egypt to do things for them. And when Egypt refused to do what they want, then they pull back. That's clear.
They disagree with their policies, of course they stop the financial help and support for him, like any country would do for their agent. Sisi is nothing but an agent for the Saudi policies. And when he disagreed with them, they stopped the financing, so his economy collapsed. So really, there is
You're
no
just
hope
doing a personal attack. This is what you're doing. You have not given us any solution. You have not given us any way forward. You're just launching a personal attack. That's what you're doing.
And send the general back to the barracks. This is all what they are good for.
My friend, can you do something positive, please? Can you see something positive?
Okay, we're having positive and healthy debate here. Gentlemen, I've got to jump in here. I'm sorry, I've got to jump in here. I actually wanted to talk about Sisi and Trump, but we don't have any time. So thank you very, very much for joining us. Unfortunately, I've got to wrap. Thanks so much.